So I can understand how anxiety provoking it can be to be invited to the selection week, but with you not knowing what to prepare, how to conduct yourself, um, what to think, how to think, and generally what to expect there. So, just to make your life a little bit easier and to sort of soothe your anxiety a bit about your selection week, I'm going to give you 5 tips that you can think of and start preparing along the lines of for when you go for your selections. And do keep in mind that these tips are in relation to what I believe worked for me. They are not universal. So my name is Larato Mhale, and I'm here to guide you through making it into your masters. So tip number 1 is to know your strengths. And here we are not talking about your ability to cook pap that everybody enjoys at home. We are not talking about your ability to train a crocodile in just one day. We are talking about the strengths that are in relation to you being an ideal candidate to train into a clinical or counseling psychologist. So with that being said, what are those kind of strengths that when you look into yourself that you think this is what would make me an ideal candidate to be trained? Looking into, maybe you're a warm person. Maybe when somebody sits with you and has a conversation with you, they naturally feel listened to. They naturally feel your warmth, your empathy. So those are the kind of things that when you sell yourself to the panel, you can say, I'm actually a warm person. People feel comfortable around me. A person can be sitting with me for just 5 minutes, but they would be comfortable to talk to me about stuff that I would consider maybe private and confidential. Maybe you are an ethical person, and as an ethical person, we would expect that you would respect patients' confidentiality. When you conduct your research, you will be conducting it in a way that is ethically approved. So you can reflect on those kind of strengths. And looking into strengths again, we can think of maybe you have this ability to work within a group, which is quite important for your training in masters, because in my experience and in the experiences of my internship colleagues, we were trained in a group setting. So your ability to work well in a group is very important, because you're going to spend a year or two. If it's a 2-year program, you're going to spend 2 years with a group of people every day of the week. So maybe you blend well in groups. Maybe you have good conflict management skills in a group. So you can reflect on that. That in that class, if I was to be selected in that class, I wouldn't really be problematic because I know how to navigate around group dynamics. That's one. And for tip number 2, know your weaknesses. Look into what is it that is going to hamper your ability to be trained as a clinical or counseling psychologist, or even when you are trained. What is it about you that can make you a little bit questionable as a professional? Looking into, maybe you struggle to blend in with groups, which is an important thing to reflect on, because beyond the group setting of the classroom, we go to internship to work with the MDT, we go to ComServe, we go into independent practice to work with the MDT. So if you struggle to work in groups, reflect on that, and most importantly, how are you going to work on that weakness? Because like it or not, the MDT is waiting for you at Vescopis, at Sterkfontein, at 1 mil. So how are you going to navigate around that weakness. Another weakness that you can look into, maybe you are an anxious person, and because masters has this workload that can just drive you crazy, how are you going to function with the constant anxiety of constant deadlines, having to submit for research, having a presentation, having to do this and that, clinicals, presentations, cases, and all of that? How are you going to navigate around that with your anxiety? Reflect on that. That would be some of the weaknesses to look into. And then for tip number 3, let's look into your professional conduct. Different people behave differently in different settings naturally. So looking at when you go for the selection week, especially maybe when it's contact, because now the pandemic has passed, most of selections are going to be contact. How are you going to conduct yourself? How are you going to communicate with the panel? Also your dress code. I know there's this dilemma of what to wear. Should I just wear my jeans and t-shirt? Should I look a little bit professional and all of that? Look into what kind of a candidate do you want to be seen as? What kind of psychologist do you want to be perceived as? So conduct yourself in that manner. Also, when you are in the corridors with other candidates, how do you speak with them? How do you communicate with them? Do you try to make friends? Do you try to network? Are you too isolated? Also, do you have boundaries in people's departments, because there you will be a visitor there? Are you able to maintain your boundaries of, for instance, kitchens, classes, boardrooms? Are you able to behave like a visitor? It can say a lot about you, that type of conduct. Look into how are you conducting yourself in that space. And then we're looking at tip number 4, and I would say it's know your undergrad and honors work. That is really important in the way you speak when you are in activities, when you engage in activities, for instance in group activities. Do you speak as somebody who has studied psychology from first year to honors? Do you throw in your Erikson here and there? Do you throw in your Maslow here and there? And not just throwing them in, but applying them in the topics that you are being given in the current affairs. Are you able to apply your Erikson, your Maslow, your systems theory in current affairs? Do you sound like somebody who studied psychology for 4 years? Look into that. And tip number 5, and I'm putting this as the last one intentionally, do have good marks. But I'm putting it as number 5 intentionally because marks are not everything. But there is one thing for sure. Those who have better marks stand a much better chance in making it through the paper selection in comparison to those with lower marks. So do have impressive marks so that when they contemplate on who they are taking and who they are dropping or they are putting in the waiting list, at least somebody can advocate to say, but this one has an 80, maybe we can bet on this one. So that's it for me, and all the best with your selection this year and in the years beyond.